Okay, hello. We'll turn those off in a minute. Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Tony Vicente, Atlantic County Executive. Again, it's a pleasure to be with you tonight, and I welcome you here at St. Luke's Home as we continue our public information session and public involvement in the Reimagine St. Luke's process. And we thought we would hold this meeting tonight on the St. Luke's campus, just for people who haven't maybe seen it in a while and see it a little bit empty as it is right now. But I want to welcome you here. Thank you for coming. I know that there's some new faces here from the last time. Hopefully we'll get some more people. But tonight is the third public session of Reimagine St. Luke's, in which we've had two others that were held. The initial one that was held at New York Mills School, just not far from here, just a mile or so down the road, as well as the second one was held there as well back a few months ago. Our plan is to do another one in the next few months as we go through this process. Forwards as well as again tonight, Joni Fu is, she's over there, and we'll be talking, or she'll be talking as well. Margaret from River Street is here with us tonight, and I'm going to hand it over to her in a minute. I just want, I want to thank you for coming. We're going to have involvement tonight. We're going to do a couple things tonight. Again, this is the next phase in looking at, some of the concepts that we have looked at in terms of possibilities of the site from the sessions that have been held publicly, in which people have provided input, and we've looked at other scenarios across the state and across the country in terms of properties of this size and scope and things. And we have another process taking place, kind of looking at the facilities and whether or not, what all of those costs are associated with it. But this is more about what do we want this to look like, what's the future of this St. Luke's site, what's the reimagining that's going to take place. So tonight is really going to go through some more of those conceptual ideas for you to look at. And after that presentation, there are, as you've seen, some have asked about the tables. There are various maps, or the same maps on all of these tables, which are going to provide you the opportunity to put some of the thoughts and things of what you would like to see, or what you've seen from tonight's presentation, incorporated, not incorporated, some differences, so that we can really get a sense of involvement. I will stress again, because I've been asked at numerous times, not just at these presentations, but by our friends in the media that are here, and there are no preconceived decisions or preconceived notions of what we're doing. There's no decisions have been made. Nobody has a plan that we're going to say, yeah, well, here it is. That's not what this is about. The idea of these meetings and this process has been and will continue to be to get as much public input. Now, we can only do so much, and I'm grateful for all of the people that are here tonight. Some of you are stakeholders in this, some of you are residents, some are residents in the immediate area, some others that are here. I know we have a couple of elected officials. I want to thank Chris Newton, our county legislator, who represents this area, for being here this evening. I also want to thank P.V. Ayala, a councilwoman from Utica, who's here. I didn't see anybody else. Did I miss any other? Caroline. Oh, Caroline, you're hiding back there, Caroline. I didn't see Caroline Reel, who's also a county legislator who represents parts of the town of New Hartford as well in this area. So I thank them for being here as well. The president of Utica University is with us, Dana Steele. Thank you, Todd, for being here. Again, for everyone else, we have the Edge staff. My staff is here from planning. So again, nothing decided. We're looking. We're working through. We're taking ideas. We're looking at different concepts. Obviously, this is a process that's going to take some time. But we have time. And we want to do it right, whatever it is, as we get to it. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Margaret, who's going to take the ball here and run with it, and she's going to lead you through this next process, and then we'll take questions after we get through the initial presentation. Okay? Thank you.
Hi, everybody. Chris Lawrence, will you turn the middle lights down? I think this will go better with the lights dim. So tonight we want to do a couple things. We want to update you on where we are right now, update you on the input, the enormous amount of input that's been coming into us over the last couple of months through the website, and talk about some potential design ideas. And we chose the word ideas intentionally because they're not stretch scenarios, they're not set in stone, they're just ways of looking at the property. And then what we want to do is put you in the shoes of all of the people who are working to move this project forward by asking you to work together to lay out what you think would work in terms of the kinds of uses and the amount of activity on this site. And so if you have questions after this, we're going to move right from this presentation into the small groups. You'll see why, because you have some things to keep in your head. But if you have questions that you want to talk to any of us about, just come over and grab us, and we're happy to answer questions. And then we would like to do the end is to just ask someone from each of the groups that worked at a map table to tell us what the key takeaways were for their group. What was most important? What were they concerned about? What did they think the opportunities were? That would help us a great deal in moving through the final phase of this project, which I'll describe here. So we are here in June. There are multiple steps that have been completed. We'll update you on those tonight. And then from this point forward, the last three and a half months of this process is about developing a variety of concept plans, some technical memorandums. We've had a few of those are coming in now in the first phase, so we'll talk about those tonight, but there's more coming. And to make a series of recommendations and a request for developer interest, so that when the communities go out to look to the development community about this site, we've articulated what you want, what's important, and we've got a concept that reflects that. And they may have suggestions about how to infill the properties, but you will have influence from the very beginning of their thinking. And this has worked very successfully in other communities, so I'd ask you to have faith in it. It matters what you tell the county, Edge, Town of Hartford, surrounding community in terms of what you want here, right? So that's where we are tonight and where we will be when we come back to you to discuss again in September. So the first workshop we had was, we had about 70 people, and it was really focused on vision. And we asked 3 questions. St. Luke's is special to me because it'll benefit our neighborhood by doing what? And have you been other places where you said, I wish we had this at home. I really enjoy doing this. And so we collected that information on large sheets of brown paper. This is all summarized on the website. And some of the key comments were that St. Luke's has been very important in the lives of many of the people in the audience. Maybe you were born there, maybe you had your families there, maybe you were treated there, maybe you worked there. And so that wellness legacy is something people spoke to. Parks and gardens, cafes and food halls, pickleball. I just got a gentleman today left a recommendation for pickleball. So art, music, and drama, multi-use space, and indoor and outdoor activities, sort of a destination that would work all year round, assisted living, a dental clinic, a walkable place, and uses that support veterans. These are some of the things that we heard about most frequently in the first workshop. That helped to develop a community vision and a set of community goals. The community vision started with transforming St. Luke's into a new neighborhood with interesting things to do, a variety of places to live, and great connections to nature and the surrounding communities. One that celebrates the site's heritage and promoting wellness while creating excellent opportunities for the future. And the community goals would create a neighborhood destination to do interesting things, a gathering place for all ages, a variety of housing, and job creation opportunities. So as you go to the blank maps that will be in front of you, these were the goals that you said we should keep in mind. So keep them in mind as you try to fill up the space, fill out the space as a place that's livable, walkable, a destination, and an active place for people of all ages. So the second workshop, we did what's usually called a visual preference survey or visual survey. We had a series of these boards around the room, and if you liked an idea, you could put a dot next to it. And if you had a comment, you'd add a Post-it note. So that was very successful. The results of that from that night are on the website. But what we did after that was we mounted this survey on the website. And as of this morning, we have just under 480 responses to the survey. So, and we're starting to see real strong consistency. So that's what you hope for, because it means that a lot of people are taking the time to be engaged. And yes, I can tell you that none of you can't do any more than 2 responses from the IP address. So nobody sent in 100 responses, right? These are individual responses. So it's a great amount of input. And so what I want to just show you is right now, as of this morning, we have activity in these 6 areas. These are the main areas that were posted the night we were last here. The town center, open space, housing, streets and parking, outdoor activities, and regional landscape. And I'm going to go to the next slide that will show you what the top vote getters were. But what you can see is that even here, even some of the lower ranked, if you will, ideas still had 150 or 200 people saying they were interested in it. So this will be a little easier to read. So under the town center, the things that people were most interested in were indoor-outdoor dining, a multi-purpose village green, nighttime attractions, and seasonal activities and festivals. And under open spaces, community gardens, a family destination, and pavilions. Under housing, walkable neighborhoods, community amenities, and cottages, small individual cottage homes. Streets and parking, focusing on pedestrian crossings and town center streets that are walkable and friendly and safe for pedestrians. Outdoor activities, farmers market and outdoor dining. And under the regional landscape, trails and a parkway, and the ability to make connections throughout the region. So right now, with 480 responses, this is where we are. The survey is going to stay open for another month or so. So if you haven't taken it and you want to, please do. And if you know someone else who's got an opinion about this process, tell them to weigh in and let us know how they're thinking about it. You can also send comments to the website, and people have been doing that. So the last time we talked, we told you we were going to talk to a number of people. Well, we did. So we spoke with New York State Department of Transportation because we'd identified Burstone Road and Champlain Avenue as high volume corridors and that were difficult for pedestrians to cross. What we learned from that conversation is the DOT is in complete agreement with the region, for your region. And that safety and walkability projects are either been developed and are going to be constructed or are in development. And just this week, they were awarded $1.2 million for projects to start in the next couple of years. So there's a real strong alignment between the direction the project is going in and the direction that the Department of Transportation is. When we started, people were very concerned about the wetland areas that have matured around here. And so in the beginning, that was a 9.5 acre footprint. We had that professionally delineated by an engineer. So, and that's grown since the beginning, more than we thought it would, right? So this is a change from the last time we talked. The wetlands are federally protected. People have asked, can you change them? Can you do away with them? No, they have to be protected. We added a 100-foot buffer, which is what New York State is moving to, around the core of the wetlands to protect them and allow them to grow and emerge as they do decade after decade. What that does is leaves us with wetlands taking up about 25 acres. so that's about 45% of the site. The majority of it has to be maintained. We really, it's very difficult to convince anyone that you could replace that wetland somewhere else and it would be of equal value. So that leaves us with a smaller development area, but also a potential for some major access to a natural area and to the environment of the region. Since the last time we talked architectural, I missed one on the previous one, I'm sorry. The last piece of information is that even though the hospital was built in parts more than 50 years ago, it's not considered historic for purposes of historic preservation. And there is no archaeological sensitivity to the site, largely because it's been disturbed so many times over the years, parking lots and other projects going on. So that's not a limitation to the development of the site. We've also, in the last couple of months, have received architectural assessments of 3 buildings that were identified as potentially being able to be retained or used, even if it's in a phase of the project. And those are the Energy Center, which is the glass and brick building that you're familiar with, that provided, that pumped energy into the main hospital complex. So it's not the little power building, which is sort of a concrete block building, it's the big black and glass building. Unique and could be potentially reused for many uses. We also had they had a study done of the Allen Calder wing of the hospital. It was thought initially that perhaps that could be reused, but the engineers' results were that it was going to be too limited in terms of its structural construct and too costly to redevelop. So the recommendation was that the Allen Calder wing not be reused. There's a phase 1 site assessment. It's on the website if you've got 500 pages worth of time that you'd like to spend looking at an environmental assessment. We have one for you. And that was of the main hospital complex buildings. And they did find some areas of concern and recommended that a more detailed phase 2 environmental site assessment be completed. So that's the recommendation there. What I'll say frankly to you tonight is, given those findings, the consultant team has been directed, and we think it's the right direction, to proceed assuming that the major hospital buildings will be demolished, and we will be looking at a redevelopment site that is a piece of land that's clean and ready to develop. So that's the point we're at right now. Right. So we said that we were going to tell you the truth, whether we liked it or not. We were going to be transparent about all of the findings, and we were going to start to get a sense of what's the no-brainer here. You know, what do we have to do? What might we do given community support, and what does there just not seem to be either a market or a need for right now? So this summarizes a little bit the ideas that are fixed in our mind. They're givens. We're going to do these things. This complex is staying where it is. It can be better integrated. It can have less feeling like when you go outside to sit, you're looking only at a parking lot. The pavilion is wonderful, the trails are wonderful. So, but focusing on integrating this facility and its, licensed to over 200 residents into the site is really important. Protecting the wetlands and building out that buffer in a way that makes it a real natural treat for the community. Champlain Avenue intersection at UW University, making that easier to cross, safer to cross, as potentially a really important part of the process. Firstone Road and Champlain Avenue intersection also. The Firstone business and parking, really taking advantage of all the people who are working in the business park and other, to be able to get across Firstone Road safely to use the kinds of uses that might be developed on this site. And finally, reusing the energy center. Ideas that are flexible, and you're going to grapple with this tonight because the exercise you're going to do is exactly the one that we're doing right now. What kind of housing? What density of housing? What type of housing? And where should it be located? Retail and professional offices, how much? Where? Market study says we can support about 30,000 square feet of retail. It's not a lot. but it's probably enough to get started. Institutional educational facilities, community center, childcare, scaled and connected streets, and open spaces. These are things that we feel like we must address head on, so we're going to do that starting tonight. The ideas that are not advancing are commercial office space as a primary use. This won't be a business park alone. Research and development hub, it's identified that that exists in the region and it's taken a long time to build it, and we are not ready to expand it to this property at this time. Same with a major recreation center, since the Nexus Center has just come online, that seems like a duplication. And the third is that it won't be reused as a major medical facility as a primary use. That doesn't mean there couldn't be a clinic or an urgent care or professional offices, but it's not going to be a hospital again, and it's not going to be a major medical facility again. Okay, so at this point, I'm going to turn this over to Joni Fu, and Joni's going to take you through some of the ideas, and then we'll come back and break into small groups. But you just have to swing it.
Okay. So, I can't swing this. It's going to give you all headaches. We have collected a lot of ideas from you, and this evening is really about putting ideas on paper and testing those ideas. So I'm going to start with some criteria, if you will, and introducing the site, and what do we have to work with. We all have to work with. A picture like this will be placed in front of you on each of the groups on the table, and this basically explains everything that summarizes Margaret's constraints, or the way that she described the constraints and the 25 acres other than the wetland and the buffer protection. The area for development is marked in yellow, and that is the same thing you will see on the map. So the future development area, even though our site is 53 acres, will be primarily on Chaplin Avenue and at the corner of Burston Road. So that's that swath of land, we call that the developable area. And then you see the darker green is the original wetland, and the lighter green color is the buffer, the protected zone. So that primarily is on the western portion of the site here. You see marked in white and outlined in black are the buildings that CRCCS is this building here that will remain, and the buildings that we're considering adaptive reuse are sort of hugging the Burston Road corner, the dormitory, the energy center, and the human resources building that you see are marked on that. So I'm going to introduce a few ideas based on, I'm going to introduce a few. Okay, I'm going to introduce a few ideas that we tested on paper. They're individual ideas drawn from what information that we have collected in our first meeting and our second meeting. So this first idea is, we heard a lot about relationship with Utica University. So this is the traffic light on Champlain Road, and one idea is to put forward a little, if you call it a retail center, a walkable community, a small town center right at the get-go, and creating this as a gateway. So you can see some pictures here, easy crossing, wide sidewalk, outdoor dining. There could be retail in these buildings, and then connected to this building, creating a front door, open space right here. So connecting this group of activity together, with that we can add on to the edge of the wetland, being in the buffer, some senior exercise center, a trail that goes off to different places. So this is one individual idea about making a really strong connection with Utica University. Kids can cross safely at this intersection. It becomes a destination in itself. We welcome the community the students. It's a place for everybody, and that's another point that was we heard time and again. A separate idea, which we also heard a lot, is creating a town green. So we use the idea of Clinton Green as an example, north-south direction, but this, you can decide tonight whether it should be north-south, east-west, where should we put this, up here or down at the corner, but we place it at the center of the site so that it becomes the organizing element of three neighborhoods. One up here, which we can all decide tonight whether it's low density or cottages or 3 to 4 story apartment buildings in these yellow parcels, which we'll explain in a second. And so this is slightly a different geometry, creating a gateway down at Burston Road, connecting Burston Road up to the town green, and making also an address for this building, CRCCS, and then connecting Utica University in this direction. Now, none of these ideas are exclusive of each other. You can combine them, you can group them together, you can think about it separately. They're, as we said, is individual ideas. Here's a very different idea, which is, so we have a wetland. So what if we put the town green smaller? Because this is already a large open space. This is a more normalized, man-made space. This is a natural environment. Then we still have our housing group up here, and we have another housing group up here, and we can have a promenade that connects the university down to Burston Road. So students will not be using Champlain Road to walk to Dunkin' Donuts or whatever we have proposed here, but they can walk in this beautiful new street, and we imagine that could be an open space for the community. You can have your dog parks in there, it can connect to trails. That's a place to have seasonal activities, night markets, winter market. We can put a skating ring in there. We can lighten it at some places and narrow it at some places. It doesn't have to be a straight line, but this just makes a connection from Utica University down to Burston Road. We can also think about this in phases, which is, what if we like to keep the dormitory building for now? We can build this piece first and then slowly make our way down to Burston Road. When Burston Road is improved by DOT, then altogether that connection makes more sense. So this is a separate idea, which is, let's make a big central park out of this wetland. Leave it as it is mostly, but make a connection, again, to Utica University, but having the town center less formal. Work with the natural environment right at the center. Just connect the pieces there. The new development with Utica University with CRCCS, because this will become the legacy. Margaret talked about healthcare, the importance of wellness and healthcare. Let's put that together, the wetland, the trails, the senior exercise park with this facility right here. So another piece that we heard from the community is about a variety of housing. This is just an example. What you will get is three types of yellow blocks tonight, and they represent different density, 1 to 2 story houses or buildings, cottages, 2 to 3 stories, 3 to 4 stories. They're all marked on the little blocks that you're going to have, and you will have an opportunity to make a map like this. Where do you think what is the most appropriate type of housing on the site and where? So that is the exercise we're going to do. Some other ideas that you might fold into here. One important thing is the regional connections to all the trails that are listed on the left. That includes winter activities, summer activities, snowmobile trails, and this site can be the hub of those connectivity. And from here, you can access all those trails and lead to other regional amenities, and which is really important to do for quality of life, and make the site attractive. or for future residents, or even for the developer down the road. So one example of streetscape improvement and pedestrian road, making the place walkable, is the improvement of Person Road. And, you know, you may have heard there's a project starting up fairly soon by New York State DOT to install sidewalks and some landscape on Person Road. And this might be coming fairly soon. And then in conjunction with that is the improvement on Champlain that we are imagining, and we think we heard people talk about the improvement on Champlain Road as an important connection. And you can see on the left, on the picture on the left here, is an important connection from the Parkway of Utica going up to the canal and the valley. There are many different ways to improve this. We can widen the median, or we can have a setback from the hospital side to add to that greenway. So, I think that's the end of this. Margaret, I'm going to pass back to you to explain the activity.
Sure, so as Joni said, you're going to get a map that looks pretty much like this, and a set of cards, paper cards, with different densities and different types of uses, as well as one that is other. And so something you think of that you'd like to have here that doesn't, you want to be very explicit about it. There's pens you can write on the maps, and there's post-it notes to explain what you might mean by something. And this is an exercise that we've done with a couple of groups. Planning students, the planning department, core team, and the advisory group. So we've been through it a few times. These are basically the blocks you're going to get. Wetlands, the buffer, open space, the palest yellow is 1 to 2 stories, the mustard color is 3 to 4 stories, the orange is 4 to 5 stories. People say 4 to 5 stories. We just ask, keep in mind how big the hospital is. The tallest central portion of the hospital is 8 stories. So if we talk about 4 to 5 stories, we're talking about something half the height of the hospital structure. So it might sound big and potentially be okay. The red is retail commercial. Keep in mind you get about 30,000 square feet of that if you want to stay consistent with the parking analysis. That's about 4 of the red sections you're going to see. And the purple is for other ideas. And the cutouts that you get at the table are scale to the map, right? So this is the example that Joni and Patty have given us, a 200-foot by 350-foot block, 3 to 4 stories, the mustard colored building. There are buildings included, as well as some green space and parking within that 1 square. So you don't have to say, well, where are they going to park? That's already built into the space you would take up with that development project, okay? And so this is what it looks like when it's done. So these are groups that have done exactly. These are your core team members from Oneida County, from EDGE, and from the team, working on what they thought would work on the site. So it's exactly the same exercise. We're asking you to step into our shoes and try to make some recommendations. So what I'd like to say, ask you to do, is to break down into, maybe 6 or 8 groups, right? And introduce yourselves to each other. There'll be facilitators that'll come to each of your groups, and you'll just do this. I like the idea of connecting the university. Start with just one idea. What do you think about the university? And see what you would make in that connection. And then what we'll do is we'll come back together, and we'll ask one person from each group just to tell us what was the most important thing they learned. What's the key takeaway from their work? At the end, please don't move your pieces or close up the map. We're going to photograph each one of them so that they are part of the idea inventory that we have to work with.
Can I ask a point of information for clarity?
A brief one, yeah.
You say 30,000 square feet.
Yep.
Could you put that in perspective
Sure.
for people's minds?
Yep.
What does that relate to an area retail building? Walmart, Target?
No, so like a new Starbucks is 8 to 10,000 square feet.
10,000.
Well, what is Walmart then?
Walmart,
50, 150.
50,
Okay.
and up.
Well over 50,000 square feet. Yeah, so if you want a mix of retail, like a coffee shop and a restaurant and a pizza place and a, you know, you name it, we're talking about things in maybe 8 to 10,000 square feet, so you can have 4, 5, 6 maybe, if they're smaller. Yeah, so it's not a lot of retail.
No.
It's
Right.
not a big box.
It's definitely not a big box.
Walmart, we call them big box. So, I just want to say one thing. Don't worry about being messy. This should be a messy exercise. When we do this, we move things around, start over, talk amongst ourselves, and no need to make anything too perfect. Don't worry about straight lines or edges.
Right.
The site is irregularly shaped, so there's nothing that's not perfect. Not perfect is perfect.
So we're gonna take about 20, 25 minutes, and then we're gonna come back.
I got one quick question.
Yep.
The land along Champlain Ave, how close is it to the House of Good Shepherd?
How close is the House of Good Shepherd to the first developable parcel? It's immediately abuts, right? The House of Good Shepherd abuts the site. But there's a rise, right?
There's a little topography, a hill, and then there's a distance that is their property.
The reason I bring it up
It's
is
okay.
because I live in the neighborhood
Yep.
over there. We have had
Yep,
absolutely a horrible
Okay.
time with the House of Good Shepherd kids.
Okay.
They run away all the time.
Yep, understood.
They're stealing
Okay.
at all the convenience stores.
okay.
Um,
Yeah, so definitely bring that up in your group discussion, because that may rule out some things there. And if you say we want something that's,
And it's right,
Yep.
it's right at the unit where
Okay.
they have the new raise the age unit.
okay,
That's blocked, but
okay.
it
Thank
still
you.
is right there.
All right, so then not to take too many questions, or we won't be able to do the comments. Yep.
Is any consideration been made to have an overhead walkway between this property and the...
It's a great idea. Put it on the map.
Put it on the
Yes,
map.
it has been talked about.
Crossing is horrible.
Put it on the map.
I'm
Yeah.
up here, it's awful.
That's great.
We want.
Put it on the map.
It's really important to enhance that intersection.
Yep.
And so how do you do it is the question. We are asking you to.
How much electricity does the energy center produce?
Say it again?
How much electricity does the energy center produce? I hear Lorraine for college and a hospital.
Well, so there's two buildings. There's the power building that actually generates some energy for surrounding users on a contract basis.
Including hospitals. I mean,
Right,
including
and then the energy center, the glass building, serves the hospital.
Are you gonna keep that?
The plan is, yes, that was identified as being potentially.
Well, we're asking you for ideas. If we keep it, what do you use it for?
Well, can you use it to provide power to the new
No,
development?
it's not big enough to power the new development. Alone. It's designed to power a condensed, single, essentially, building cluster.
Okay.
Plus, there's also alternative energies now that are potential. So if you had a parking lot covered with solar panels, say underneath parking, that's a possibility. Geothermal energy, possibility for something of this scale. So there's also alternative energy sources that they didn't have to think about when they built the energy center. They did the best with what they had. So we're going to be around, and the facilitators know the answers to these questions. So break up into some small groups. Grab a piece of pizza, just small groups, 4 or 5 people. Don't go home yet. 20 minutes, and you get to see how hard the choices are, and tell us what's important to you. All right, thank you.
Navigate through all of the retail, the different town greens we have, multiple story complexes, is probably one of the most important things.
Okay,
Because you can build anything, but if you can't get there or leave, people aren't going to
Okay.
come.
okay. Great. Well, how about this next group? Yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Sir.
What we learned is we had a lot of different ideas, like a million. And then we kind of came up with something, looking at where we want to go in our, kind of our planning. And as you come on, we talked about coming across Utica College, when they were talking about that in the front, is when you come across, what we were looking at is having like Utica Coffee, shops like that, in that little part, you know, where, as you come in from Utica College to the right, we're kind of have that little, like a little development type thing, with trails heading over there from the wetlands, so people could walk over in that part of the town. And then as we came in, as you drove in and you went to the left, what we did is we had our 1 and 2 story and 3 story buildings, and right up around a playground area, going right up against the wetlands, with the trails going through the trails over there. One of the things that did come up is for Utica College that we need another hotel in the area. So right between, I guess it's the church and whatever this is over here, we kind of laid in a hotel. Now, I'm not sure how big of that would be, but you know, it's just something that they keep saying we need more hotels here. And I'm sure Utica College probably needs them for all their events. And then down off of, which road is this? This is Chaplin. This is Chaplin Ave. We had coming in over here, was kind of like the YMCA type of pool, YMCA child care type of thing for people. Community center, right inside there. So after 1,000 ideas,
You did great.
we kind of came up with something.
That's great. All right, who's up over here? The next table. Someone's gonna own it.
Well, I'll talk for a second.
There you go.
I didn't intend to get involved.
You're involved.
You're drafted.
I don't know that we actually came up with the complete ideas, but essentially, the thinking was that this piece of property is kind of cut off and isolated. First thought was maybe a parking lot for trail access, but then it became a trail access point and an apartment building here that takes care of that. Housing in here and some green space. When we got down to this property, we wondered whether, rather than putting any kind of housing down there, and we don't know what it looks like topographically, but, and I also don't know how large that is acreage-wise, but we were thinking that solar could be installed here, a farm could be installed here, because you've got opportunities to potentially put maybe other demonstration projects in the space here along the green space. And of course, we don't know, I'm not familiar with what the status is of this power plant at the moment, what their future plans are. It might be worth having someone who does energy analysis just say, hey, if I showed you this site, what could be done here?
Good idea.
Because some of that energy might be able to be used literally on the site or as a revenue source to the local government or the site from the energy being sold back to the grid.
Great.
So I think, and then the other thing is one final thing on the green front, and I'm assuming that there would be just tons of money from New York State for this. And others, but that there are all that, you'll have roofscapes, at least on the apartment buildings, I presume you could put solar, right? Maybe not the housing per se, but there's just a lot of opportunities to really make this a potentially important demonstration site, as well as sort of a, you know, naturally gifted.
A net
place.
zero site.
Yeah, exactly. That was it.
You volunteered.
Okay. So we started with looking at the wetlands and wanted to put in a boardwalk type area with a circular path through there. Would have access both to Burstone Road, to the senior house center that we're standing in, and also back into the community. Up on the right end, we saw a more high density area up towards where the House of Good Shepherd is in that area there. But there would be a bridge coming from Utica College. Retail would be right there so that the Utica College kids would have access to the retail. Behind that, a town green with some lower density housing there. Facing onto Burstone, all connected to the green here, we thought about a farmer's market type activity. where it's accessible to the community, both the community here, but the outside community as well. And then lastly, we had in this area, right adjacent to the wetlands, recreation area, and we didn't really define it. Whatever the recreation area needs to be, you know, for me, I'm always talking about performance spaces. We talked about tennis or pickleball courts and things like that in that area, right around the center of the property, so it'd be accessible to the people that are living here and accessible to the students coming over from the college.
Excellent.
Oh, yes, I forgot. We also put a hotel with pretty good access to the college for their overflow for people that are visiting the campus.
Thank you. All right, we're going over to the side of the arena.
Oh, I didn't realize we had so many.
When there's one person left at the table, they get to talk about it.
Yes,
He talked last night.
Oh, excuse me?
Okay. So I work with John. It's John.
Oh.
Well,
Going this
help me
way.
reiterate everything. So we kind of wanted to bring in a area that people could come and have some entertainment. I've worked at St. Luke's for 25 years, and I work
Hold
at
the
the
mic closer.
Oh, sorry, and I work at the new hospital. And when I see our residents come in or new people or trying to recruit people, there's really not much in the Utica area to do. So kind of what we've done was we were thinking about having like an open air entertainment center here with some greenery, so people, almost like SPAC, like you can go to concerts, you know, and have lawn chairs and enjoy some entertainment. We did show some paths walking through the wetlands. We did put in a hotel. We heard the concerns about people staying for Utica University. We included in this the 3 to 4 story, could be condos, townhouses, apartments, whatever. I did get the scoop on the 4 to 5 stories, which house anywhere from 35 to 40 apartments. So we went with just 35 for the average, so that's 70 apartments right there. That would be, you know, what we're trying to do is bring also income to the area. So if you have to, you know, we want to put tax dollars back on the map. So we have, you know, these can be, you can have retail underneath on the first floor on here, but also some essential, like, you know, we were talking about the kids being able to do their laundry, not having to walk down to, you know, wherever, you know, like maybe a nail salon for the girls, or just some stuff we were thinking about. What we did also, though, we were talking, and this is kind of like a freeway. We decided we didn't want a freeway anymore for people to just be speeding by, so maybe we cut it off here in our area. You can get to the college this way, but this from here, our little area here to here would be walkable area. So you wouldn't have to worry about getting across to the great new place. And then over here, you know, we would keep this open so that you could, you know, we would, because there's no way to access, we don't have a road to access back here for like Dunkin' Donuts or the new Avis, I think it's Avis. So there's no road you can get to these places, so we have to keep this road open. John was saying maybe a couple roundabouts. We also thought about like a covered bridge, a pedestrian bridge, walking from Utica University to the new place. But if this is a walkable area, if we did that, we might not need this, but I thought it'd be pretty cool in the winter when you don't have to like traipse through the snow. That would be pretty cool. We also did include childcare because we heard that the professors or the instructors at Utica University need a place to bring their kids. So what better than to have them right across the street. We also did include a dog park and kids park, just because you got an open air entertainment. We're not going to have, you know, Blue's Clues every day. So kids are going to need, you know, concerts for Blue's Clues. We're going to need something for them to do. But the really cool thing we did was over here is we want a distillery. We don't want like a microbrewery, like someplace big from like, you know, we want to see bourbon being distilled in the glass house. Because at first I thought, well, we don't really need that. It's kind of for me it was an eyesore, but then we were talking and that would be really cool to see that distillery and maybe have like a open air dining or place some dining in there.
Yeah, if you could just imagine the glass building being
Sure.
completely empty. No, sorry, I'll just
Okay,
hold my beer. No. I think if you have that glass building just completely empty, it could be an amazing event venue, distillery, open air concept, whatever it might be. No offense to the current event venues locally, but there's some tired ones out there. I think that there's open, cleaner airspace, having something that's family friendly, and anything from a wedding to a bridal shower. That I think that glass building could be one heck of an asset. Great point. I would also consider, like, we're in a 200-bed facility right here. There's going to be a lot of traffic, service roads that would need to be considered.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want anybody, to have to get sent out, go to a hospital, and then have to go through, a residential or a retail area that we want walkable. So we would probably put a service road out on the north side of the property, so you can head northeast on Champlin, east on Oriskany Boulevard, right to Wynn. So that would be a consideration, and then you wouldn't want service for retail to kind of have to big 53-foot trucks weaving in and out of the residential areas. So.
All right, that's great. Thank you. Thank you guys very much. All right. You're the last one standing.
I guess so. No,
There you
there's
go.
another one yet.
Okay.
Just looking at it.
So we did something similar here. We kept the access road that's currently there that does go through the wetlands. The wetlands we find, are definitely important. We're actually kind of representing the slice of heaven, the part of New Hartford and Whitestown that most people don't know exist, and those couple streets over there, and we love our wildlife. And on top of that, to border that property on there, we were putting the low-density housing, just so that they would have the scenery. The high-density housing more towards the front. Coming across from Utica University, we have some retail. We'd like some specialty retail stores. Going more towards the House of Good Shepherd area, we did put in an entertainment area. We have a town green. We do have some green spaces along that line. So
That's great. Thank you. Very good. Okay. Has this map been abandoned? Come on, somebody. Who worked on this one? No? Okay. We won't make anybody do it if they don't want to. But thank you all very much.
There were a few.
You want to come? Yeah, come on.
I see you being dressed. I don't want to be on the microphone or anything.
Nothing you've done this, talk loudly. We'll hear you.
One thing, it would be really nice if the map were better designated with what's on what side, so you really get a visual concept of what's going on. But we talked about things that weren't exactly standalone. So for instance, we no longer have a humane society to rescue animals, dogs, cats, and so on and so forth.
Okay.
Maybe bringing it to this area. But the one thing is, animals don't get adopted if they're wild, if they're jumping on chairs and tables and they're not house trained and so on and so forth. So an adjacent training facility with people who have the ability to have instruction to train these animals so they can be adopted. They can also be utilized for service animals, seeing eye dogs.
Yep.
So this is something different to the area. It would actually be a draw that's unique to this area.
Yeah.
And then we kind of went along those lines and was thinking that perhaps that would also play into a facility where we'd have housing for veterans, because veterans who have PTSD and so on and so forth also need service dogs.
Yep, interesting. Okay.
Guiding eye animals and so on and so forth. Those were a lot of my focus.
Okay.
But again, what else?
You added an urgent care and clinic?
Some people felt that, a medical, still some type of
Small
medical
center,
facility would be good there. Also something for physical therapy, which is always needed in this area. Perhaps a small component for assisted living.
Okay.
I'm not sure what else was down there.
Trails and parking.
Art gallery.
Yep,
Oh,
art
that's
gallery.
right. Thank you for reminding me. Because we were thinking of an art gallery, coffee shop, maybe a little music area.
Yeah.
Something in conjunction with Munson Williams.
Okay.
Or the Pratt Institute.
Okay.
I think that
That's
would be a
great.
good idea.
That's great, thank
Okay.
you. Thank you all. So